Sound check 1 2 1 2. Sound check 1 2 1 2. Good morning, folks. Good morning, folks. Just making sure the sound is good. I'll get things started off in just a second. Just let me make sure I'm checking on my sound bites. Check one, two. Things started off in just a second. Facebook, we good. All right. Let's check LinkedIn. Let me check YouTube first. We go live virtually every day. Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We're doing live. I'm getting my technology game right. Doing what I got to do. Give it a second. Give me about 3 or 4 more minutes. And check. Mic check. YouTube, we're good to go. And let me check LinkedIn 1 second. 2. By the way, if you have anything you'd like to add, leave it in the chat. I know I got some great engagement about this past Friday. A lot of people had some interesting things to say. So you can expect I'll have a full response tomorrow about a lot of the college football that I had to watch yesterday. It wasn't the easiest thing to deal with. But anyway, so we're back, folks. Here we are. As one Crookshank here, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time published author and educator. And we're back another Sunday. You know how we get down here every single Sunday. And one thing about me over here in the Move Swiftly world, we keep things consistent. I don't run around telling you I'm going to do something and not make sure I do it when I say I'm going to do it. That's part of the whole Move Swiftly brand. That's part of what I build. That's part of what it takes to actually make it in this game. In fact, I just bear with me because I just left a church service. I've been going to church every single Sunday for the past couple months now, and it's really having an effect on me. And one of the things that the pastor Groeschel Life Church, by the way, he was saying was, regardless of who's in office, are you serving the Lord consistently? Not every once in a while are you serving the Lord consistently. So before I bring on Kimberly, there's a couple announcements that I want to make, and then we'll bring Kimberly on and we'll really get it. We have a lot of ground to cover, a lot of things to talk about today, because this was one of those weeks where, jobs, especially in this world. Again, before I get started, let me just make my announcements. First and foremost, if you are in the West Palm Beach area and you are interested in doing free boxing lessons. All right, we are officially starting that on November 23rd, and we're doing that every 2 weeks from then. Free, you heard me correctly, free boxing lessons. Just hit the QR code there and you'll get contacted. I'll contact you about the details. Again, this is 1,000% free. We're all about, again, teaching not just ladies, anyone, but teaching anyone how to defend themselves, develop the confidence to defend themselves, and using that as a way of really building a walk of faith and having confidence in yourself, and really, really importantly, developing a life, like a healthier lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. So contact me with that. Second thing, if you have not yet, business owners listening to me, if you have not gotten your free guide on how to use teamwork to reduce the turnover in your business, that is where you go to get that information. You go to freeguide.makeitmove.com, put in your information. It'll take you maybe 3 seconds to do this entire thing. Put in your information, you'll get a free guide on how to reduce the turnover in your business. And final thing, right now we are literally 6 days away from this fundraiser being over. You have got to take advantage of it. All right. Again, like I was telling you guys Friday, it just so happened that I met one of the moms of this soccer team of Royal Palm Beach Strikers. I met one of the moms of the boys, and I'm at a sports bar. We're sitting there watching some college football, and she was telling me how she's a soccer coach, former soccer player, and she was talking about how hey, there's certain opportunities, especially out here in Royal Palm Beach, in which you can really give back to the young people and show them that you care and stuff like that. So here's the fundraiser deal. It is that QR code. You're going to spend literally $20, folks, $20. You're going to spend $20. You're going to get a card from Domino's. All right. And every time you use that card between now and June of 2025, you get an extra pizza free. So you buy a large pizza. You guys are hearing me correctly when I say this. You're buying a large pizza, and then you're getting another large pizza, 1,000% free. You need to take advantage of this right now. You only have 6 days. It ends November 9th. It ends on November 9th. So, all that being said, we're back. Kimberly, how you doing today? How are you? How was your week? How's everything? We have a lot of ground to cover. Good to see you. Good to see you set up, and the YouTube thing. It's crazy how much we've been improving with our technology
Right.
again
Yes.
since we started. So, how are you?
I am good. I'm good. Like we were talking before the show, tough week with the kids and tough week with, kind of self-reflecting. And I think that all of us can relate to that. What can we
Mm-hmm.
do differently? I'm not going to share your story, but one thing is that we had something set up that we were going to talk about. We had a whole
Mm-hmm.
outline. We got to talking this morning, and we're like, you know what? We're going to pivot because others, I'm sure, can relate to this.
Mm-hmm.
So, welcome everyone, and I just want to just tell them what we're doing.
Yes. So, for those of you who do not know, if you're new to me, I teach. I teach at a brand new startup school named the Center for Creative Education. And one of the neat things about this school is that it is a startup school. It is something that is bringing a fresh perspective on education. But as I tell my regular listeners, and I tell everyone that is willing to listen, there is never a perfect situation in life. Everything is going to require trade-offs. You got to ultimately kind of eat a shit sandwich, so to speak, and whatever great thing may be happening in your life, whatever great idea, whatever great concept you may think you've run into, you're going to run into the trade-off of that great idea. So one of the things about being at a startup school is the fact that it's really difficult to get buy-in from parents. All right. And we're not just talking about the parents that are bringing their kids to the school every day. That's a battle in itself. It's also going to be difficult to get a buy-in from the parents who ultimately have to be teachers. All right. So in the school that I teach at, there has been me and there's a colleague, shout out to Shay if you're listening, but there's a colleague of mine that I met 3 years ago when I started at the school. And there was a time that we were trying to calculate all of the teachers and all the turnover and all the people that have come in and out the building or in and out the school. And we literally lost track, Kimberly. We literally
Wow.
lost track in terms of how many people. And that's the part about it that was really kind of discouraging, because the two of us were both very into the self-development world, and we want what's best for the kids. We see the vision for the school. We have a great relationship with the president of the school, and we see the vision. We want to help, but we understand us too. We're not parents ourselves, so we can't necessarily blame a teacher for leaving, or we can't blame the school for leaving and stuff like that. So because of all that,
Why
I say,
why do you think the turnover was so high?
yeah, that's what I was actually
Okay.
I'm glad you asked that, because parenting, 1000%. I mean, you see it right here on the screen, balancing parenting. And
Right.
what I'm personally grateful for is to have someone like you that I can chat with, especially in a live setting like this, to figure out, how can we come to kind of a happy medium? How can we kind of understand that when it comes to parenting and when it comes to finding a job or adding value at work and getting yourself away from one of my favorite books is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. One of the things he talks
Mhm.
about is how to avoid that rat race. And what I've learned is that when you're actual parent and the kid is here and it's like, look, baby, the bills need to be paid now and things need to get taken care of now. You don't have necessarily the time or the patience to be, testing things out at some startup school. You have to figure out how things are going to be paid. You need structure. You need bills to pay and all that kind of stuff. Formula to buy everything. There's all sorts of things that come up,
It never
and
stops.
yeah, and that. So I say all that to say to you listeners, and again, if you actually let me check the comments, because that's the last time I forgot to do that. All right. But what we're going to be discussing today is how to find a balance when it comes to parenting and adding value at your workplace. And just so we're clear, we're talking about people who are already parents and they still feel like they're being sucked in. They still don't feel like they're getting better at work, and they're just struggling paycheck after paycheck, month after month, year after year. It seems like it gets harder and harder and harder. So we're going to get into all of that today, and hopefully we leave you guys with just something that you can be doing to get yourself better throughout the week. Because again, We are here every single week. We're not leaving you. We will figure it out some kind of way. So, I'll give you the mic for a second if you want to kind of address that a little bit.
Sure. So, back when I was working, my kids were younger. My kids are grown now. I worked all the time. It
Hmm.
was taboo. You could not talk about, oh, I have a soccer game. Oh, well, you're just going to figure it out because if you're scheduled to work, you got to
Time out.
come
I
to
gotta
work.
pause you there. Woof, I have to pause you there. So I need to again because I'm not a parent myself, and I need to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. You're telling me you as a mother with a young kid, you would go to your boss and you say, "Hey, I have a soccer game to be at what 6 p.m." and just saying that would be like, "Yo, get the hell out of here with that. You got a job to do." Is that
Yeah.
am I hearing it
Yes.
correctly? Okay.
If you say it, because even today,
Uh-huh.
parents and caregivers are afraid to talk about their responsibilities outside of work. Even
Wow.
today.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. You
Oh,
can
you're fine.
speak on
You're fine.
that.
So, it was so hard. Now I think some people are more open to it, but we still have this stigma of being parents or a caregiver.
Hmm.
And, oh, I have to go to a doctor's appointment. Okay, well, you can figure it out, take a day off, take PTO, what have you. But
Hmm.
it's most people will either find another job that's more instead of talking and being authentic.
Hmm.
And that's what I learned through the journey. Like, I think back to when my kids were younger.
Hmm.
What if I would have just said, hey, this is important to me. And so, I'm coming to you to try to work it out and have an authentic conversation.
Hmm.
What if I would have done that? Would it change? And so I wish I could have been bold enough to do that.
Hmm.
But at that time, I didn't want to lose my job. And that's how a lot of people feel. I'd rather not talk about it than talk about it. So I would
Hmm.
encourage everybody be bold, be authentic, and remember that being a parent or a caregiver
Hmm.
is an important job. And we have to find that balance. But if you're always working, you're always going to be feel guilty because you're missing something.
Hmm.
And if you're not working and you are going, you feel guilty because you're not at work.
Right.
Balance the two. Work when you work, but when you family is going to be there and they need you now. Your job will replace you tomorrow. So balance it, or it's
Right.
going to balance you. So take
Mhm.
control of it. Be bold.
All right. So I want you to give a couple examples of what you mean when you say be bold. And I ask that because I feel like that's a really important element to it. And I'll tell you a story
Mm.
just to kind of further the point. It was when I was again, you guys know I have a lot of football stories, so just get ready for a lot of them. If you're new to my work, just get used to this. All right. I was my second year playing football for the Bricks Cheney White Oak Warriors, and we had this coach. I'll never forget his name, Coach Sean. No, not Coach Sean. It was Coach Walt, I believe it was. Yeah, I think it was Coach Walt. And it was I grew up in a two-parent household. I would show up to practice. I would work hard every single day. I'd be there every single day, right? And it was the first game, and I didn't play at all. Didn't play one bit. And I remember the practice after, the Monday after, my mother goes to the head coach, and she goes, "Hey, let me talk to you for a second. Let me talk to you for a second." She goes, "Why does Aswan never get to play?" I mean, and then his first response was the generic, "Oh, well, he don't know the plays yet. He don't know this. He don't know that." And then she goes, "Well, he's in practice every day. He shows up. He's on time. He's not, one of these belligerent kids, or he's not disrespectful. I know I didn't raise my kid like that. I want to
Mhm.
know why he don't know the plays every day because it seems to me that's something you're not doing." Kimberly, I tell you not. I swear to God, if my mother's listening right now, she would confirm this story. I started the next game in every single game for the next for the entire season, and was the starting center for the rest. And the moment I'll never forget from that entire year was that smile and handshake that my mom and the head coach had at the end of my first start. And I will never forget the value in being very bold. She was not
Yes.
disrespectful with it. She was stern, obviously, but she wasn't being an asshole and just saying, "Oh, he just deserves something
Hmm.
because his name is Aswan Crookshank." No, she was clearly saying he's there every day. We work our ass off to get him to practice all the time. He loves the game, and
Right.
that is, and I hear a lot of that rhetoric, even when it comes to the mothers, if we're just talking about being a sports mom in general, it's kind of the same complaints that I hear from a sports mom that's not happy with their youth coach versus a mom or a parent that's not happy with their job. So I explained that to you because I wanted to kind of give you where you just took me. And can
Mhm.
you speak a little bit on just this element of being bold, or doing some examples of how you can develop the confidence? And one of the things
Mhm.
I love that my mother did was it didn't matter her personality. When you're talking about me, her son, someone she's very passionate about, she's going to
Right.
forget all that shyness. She's going to forget all that. At some
Yes.
point, something got to trigger you to where at this point you can become very stern. So, go ahead.
Yes. Well, you're exactly right. She was bold, and that's
Hmm.
exactly what I mean. No holds barred. You have to, draw the line in the sand. You're right. This is work, and this is my responsibility as a parent or caregiver.
Hmm.
And so, having that conversation, one of the things that you could do, the worst thing, and I always say this, it's always going to be a no if you don't ask.
Hmm.
Okay, so put that in your mind. It's easier to
Right.
ask for something because, hey, 50-50, you may get it, you may not.
Right.
But if you never have a conversation, you're never going to resolve anything.
Hmm.
So, number one, put that in your mind. That'll take the fear away. And even if you feel nervous, hey, they don't think I'm committed to the job. They don't think I want to do a good job, that I'm slacker. No, they have to understand your situation in order to help you. So that'll be the first thing. The second thing is during the conversation, don't just talk about the one event or doctor's appointment. Say this is an ongoing thing. So from the beginning, say this is my life and I want to balance the two and I want to partner with you to see how we can work together.
Yes.
So that way you're not just saying, hey, this is what I want and you need to give it to me. This
Hmm.
is, someone saying, I want to do a great job, I want to be a great employee, and I want to be a great parent or caregiver. So your boss will feel like, hey, you know what? They're really trying, so let's see what we could do. But it just
Hmm.
starts with that first conversation and then it can go from there. Now, am I going to say it's 100% effective and it's going to work? I don't want anybody coming back saying, I did what Kimberly said and it did not work.
Hmm.
Right? Because it's not. Some bosses are not like that. They don't understand. They could not have children, or it
Hmm.
could be a different situation.
Right.
But there's other avenues. I always say go to your manager first, and if then that doesn't work, then go to HR. That's what they're there for, to help navigate these situations. Because that's they're kind of like a balance. So I would start with those things first.
All right, so I wrote these down just so we're clear. It's number one, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm putting them on the screen now. You're saying first ask, because if you don't ask, then it's a guaranteed no. All right, it's
Right.
first ask you, it's a guaranteed no. And we'll even stick to the example with my mother. All right, and we'll just kind of break that down. We're running up about 10 minutes in 10 minutes before we wrap this up. So breaking it down with my mother, her first thing to this youth coach was, why does as one not play? All right.
Right.
Why does as one not play? And I'm telling you, if you have a job right now and this boss is telling you that you have to be there during the time where you don't feel like where you don't want to be there, you had a prior engagement, you had, so actually we just had this. So what happened was on Friday, myself and a couple former colleagues, we all got together at a sports bar and there was people there that were recently fired at the school. And there was some, you got to think with me, I be in my own world when I'm there. Sometimes they always tell me like, I'll be recording podcasts, I'm doing also. So a lot of like the gossip and the school drama, I'm gonna be
Oh.
knowing what's going on. I'll be so into the kids and so into recording the show that I don't be knowing what. I have such a positive outlook when it comes to that particular position, because I've been in fitness, I've been in industries where I'm really appreciative of what the school is trying to do. But
Yeah.
anyway, there was a former former colleague there that has been gone for a couple months, and I never actually got the story on why she was let go in the first place. And she told me it was because she ran out of PTO because she wanted to go to some event or something like that. So she gave me the full story, and I bring that up because if you're in a situation like that where, and I'm not here to tell you how important the event is or whatever it is, but if you're in a situation where you're in a conflict and you could be potentially let go because you need to go somewhere and you don't have enough PTO, the first thing should be this right here. Ask, hey, is there something we can be doing? Ask, is there a situation where maybe I could use partial PTO? I could come in the morning, I could work this out, however it is you
Hmm.
want to work it. In fact, just this past August, my high school, I'm from Maryland, so my high school, Good Counsel, they were playing a game out here in Miami. And instead of me taking the whole day off, I went that Friday night. I was at the school until about 3 p.m. Again, I made sure I was able to show up because I know the game. Oh man, what's up, dog? Hey,
No,
dog.
no.
And so
She's like, I'm going to be in this video. I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
care what you
yeah,
say.
yeah. I'm gonna be at this conference. This is valuable. But anyway, I had it in my head where I knew I didn't need a whole day off because the game doesn't start till 7 p.m. But I do have to
Right.
drive to Miami, which is an hour drive. And again, that situation helped out a lot. So the
Hmm.
asking and then the understanding that second part, the partnership. No,
Right.
see things from the boss's perspective. All right. One of the things that as
Yes.
they were talking, I saw from both sides because one of the things that got said was, hey, if I do this for you, then I have to do this for everybody. And that has happened across every industry. And you got to understand that these managers, these bosses, they have boss. Every single person have bosses. We're about to elect the damn
Hmm.
president of the United States. Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are going to have bosses. All right. As we can see that everyone has a boss. So when you look at it from a partnership perspective, have some empathy, have some, grace. The same way my mother went to this coach and said, hey, look, if you get a guy like him who's showing up every day, I'm not getting any information from him about what he could be doing to starting or wanting to do to start. Look at it as a partnership. Then people
Right.
respect you. And this one, I really want you to dive a little more into because this one's big in your world. All right. You came from, not having your own business to now you're running your own HR company. And the amount of things that you can probably speak to when it comes to utilizing pipelines, you don't learn this in school. You really don't. This is
No.
not some information that what you see in school is you see kind of this one boss and you kind of point it in a direction where there's one leader. As you can see, the amount of gaslighting with this election, everything is about, this one person going to this one billionaire and trying to put the blame on somebody else. But this utilizing pipeline things, I think utilizing pipeline thing is something that I'd love for you to dive deeper into, seeing that you're in the HR world and a lot of people just don't understand who the pipeline is, who to talk to, how it's going to work. So again, the floor is
Okay.
yours to dive into that piece.
Well, as I was listening to you talking, I'm looking on the screen.
Hmm.
So I would say before ask, it's planning.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, because you have to plan it, right? If there's something that you need to take to your boss, you never go with not a plan. Hey, these are the things that I have, and how this is a long-term plan or short-term plan, whatever it looks like,
Hmm.
because they can't help you if they don't know what you're going through. So
You
plan,
see the skills
right?
though.
We plan it, we schedule it out because we schedule out our life, right?
Mhm.
So, and then you go ask, but come with some solutions like the
Mhm.
flexible work options. Not all roles can do that, right? There's some roles that can do that,
Right.
but again, you have to ask, kind of think about it, partner with some, good advisors and ask them, what other things could I do to get through this? And then at that point, ask partnership and then utilize the pipelines.
Mhm.
That could be from asking a colleague, hey, can you cover me for 2 hours so I can get this done? Or
Mhm.
it could be, could you take this shift and I'll take your Saturday shift? Whatever. I mean, there's so many
Mhm.
different things that you could do. Prior to going to HR, get that plan together first, present it to your manager, your leader, give them an opportunity to also help you, and
Mhm.
then utilize whether it's your colleagues, whether it's HR. There's always something to do that, could help you get there. So
Mhm.
pipelines could be anything from anyone in the company.
Mhm.
So that goes back to being bold. Stop being afraid to ask. It's always
Mhm.
going to be a no if you don't. It's that
Right.
simple.
Right. And so given our we only have about 5 more minutes left, and by the way, guys, so we try to keep this under 30 minutes, between 25 and 30 minutes, because we know it's a Sunday. Me personally, I know I am a football guy personally, so Sundays in the fall, Sunday and Saturdays in the fall are very, very dominated, and I have to get a lot of stuff done in the morning. So what I think is going to be the best for this, because I got to tell you, there's so much I've seen on this particular topic, is if we can do some sort of a role play in which we can really see things out. And I'll give you a scenario that I actually lived through, and I would
Okay.
want you to kind of adjust on how you would have handled the situation. So the first one that comes to mind was, this was about 3 years ago now, and this was when I was at kindercare, daycare slash educator type of a position, and there was a headache. I mean, he was a VPK, so that made him like 2 years old, 3 years old. And I gotta tell you, Kimberly, this kid was a headache. I mean, kicking kids, throwing everything. He was to the point where they had to disenroll him eventually. However, during that time, we would always be calling the mother to come pick him up. And eventually it got to the point where the mother told us, hey, if I keep having to come pick him up, my boss is going to let me go. So I want you to pretend that you're the mother in this situation,
I've
and
had that
tell me,
happen. So
yeah, and tell us a little bit about how just pretend she's here, and how you would advise her to go about, helping out with that.
that's really tough, right? Because who wants to go to their leader and say, my kid's bad
Yeah.
and I don't know what to do?
And the thing, and I would
So,
tell you from the man's
mhm,
perspective, she was fine. She was hot. So me personally, I felt for her, but it was
right,
like, dog,
right,
dog.
right. But going to your boss is a lot different than
It's a
going
lot
to the
different for me, because
person,
that's what I say.
right?
Me personally, I'm a little,
Right.
biased to you, but
Yeah,
your boss ain't gonna be me, and that's the tough part,
exactly.
especially with a lot
So,
of attractive looking women. It was like, hey, nah, gotta get a job. It ain't gonna be doing this
right.
job.
I remember when my kids were young, there was a lot of challenges, and I
Yeah,
would have a new babysitter almost every week. Okay,
yeah, uh
my
huh,
boss was just like, figure it out. I did
yes,
talk to him about that. He was like, figure it out. I'm
mm-hmm,
like, okay, that's easy. It's
mm-hmm.
not easy.
No,
So number one, obviously, the child had some issues to work through.
mm-hmm.
Probably terrible twos. Things happen. I would first talk
Right.
to your
And then he
doctor.
was in his defense, the parents were split up, so he's dealing with a divorce. He's 2 years old,
Exactly.
and so
Well,
it
that
was
that's what
right.
I was dealing with. So
Yeah.
so first talk to the pediatrician
Mm-hmm.
and get some advice on how to handle some, because a 2-year-old can't explain things, right?
Exactly.
So again, looking at that your partnerships,
Mm-hmm.
into your pipeline, see who you can go. I would start there,
Mm-hmm.
and then talk to like you go to church, talk to
Mm-hmm.
somebody there, see who could be your backup. As
Uh,
parents, we need a backup, right?
yeah.
And so, and I know some people out there were like, well, I don't know who that is, but you don't know unless you ask. Think about
Yeah.
people, your friends, your people at your church, people at your fitness club. But
Yeah.
you have a big network, lean
Mm-hmm.
on it and put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Join parenting groups on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. Get some ideas, get a backup,
Mm-hmm.
and then go to your boss and say, this is the issue I'm having. I'm getting called because, I'm going through a tough time right now.
Mm-hmm.
My kid's acting out. They're telling me to pick him up. Now, this is what I've put into place, and so can you give me a short term, accommodation to be able to go get him up and take him, to grandma's or aunties or friends and then come back to work? That's just an example. The manager, I'm sure, would be much more appreciative than you just saying, I'm out, bye, I gotta go pick up my kid, right? Because
Man,
that leaves no
uh,
room for discussion.
man,
So that
that's
would be what I recommend.
yeah, that's awesome. I almost want you to repeat that one, because I feel like the grace in which you gave, especially if you're listening, or if she gets it, and if she is listening, she knows who she is. But the grace in which you were able to explain, going to the manager and say, hey, listen, it takes a humbling person to admit,
Mm,
I'm going through a lot with my child, not with the father anymore. I'm having to do this on my own. If you're a boss and you don't really feel for a person like that, then you're just an asshole. You really are. You're
yeah,
just an asshole. And at that point, I would add, you as a parent should want to get out of there anyway.
yeah,
If you go and you plan and you say, hey, I'm going to humble myself. I'm going to say, look, I'm going through what I'm going through. and I just need a little bit of grace because I'm trying to get my 2-year-old to figure it out. Then, and they don't understand that, then that's when it's time to really actually start looking for another position, or ask yourself, am I really doing the work that I want to be doing?
Am I at
So,
the right place?
am
Yeah.
I at the right place? So, I see we're running up on time here. And then before I close, I want to close out. I want to give you kind of this question as we close out, because a lot of the things that we're talking about are going to touch on this subject is what's the difference between work and a career? We'll close out with that question.
Well,
In
what
your
I'm
mind.
going to do, what you
Mhm.
said, want me to deep dive on the subjects,
Yeah.
right? So, over the next day, I'm going to put something together, an article,
Hmm.
tips and trips. I'm going to send it to you so you can put it on our website so
Yes,
people
ma'am.
can download it as a resource.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I'd say a job, work, whatever you want to call it, and a career. Work is something you just go and clock in. You don't care about, you're not passionate about.
Hmm.
You're doing it for the paycheck, but you don't really care,
Yes.
and
Mm.
you could go find, 10 of those jobs. A
Yes.
career is something that you're passionate about.
Hmm.
You want to help people, you want, whatever it is, you love to help children and parents, like you connect to them, and it was something you didn't think you'd ever do. I like helping people, inspiring people, and finding innovative solutions. And that is the difference, something that you're passionate about, you're willing to put yourself all in there. And I think that's the biggest thing. You just keep improving. Like you said at
Hmm.
the beginning, we always seek to improve ourselves and get better.
Hmm.
We're not afraid to admit failures because failure makes you better. It's a teaching moment.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what it's about. That's your career. That's when you know that's something that you're meant to be doing.
Yes, I strategically asked that question because, to me, when you look at what we have come up with, this plan piece, you can avoid a lot of the problems if you already plan to stay on your career. And
Yes.
that's something you're not getting in the school system. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. All right. What's going to happen is you're going to see a problem, and you're going to have such a passion for it. You're going to have such something that's going to pull on your heartstrings. I know there's many
Mhm.
people who have seen, friends or families get locked away for stuff they didn't do, and that inspired them to be a lawyer. There's
Yep.
people that have lost family and friends to health issues. Okay, I'm going to be a doctor to help this one. That's when you have
Yes.
actually planned a career. You can
Right.
avoid a lot of the problems we discussed today if you yourself would just spend some time really figuring out the problems that you have seen in this world that have really made you, that you're passionate about, plan to build a career around solving that problem, and then a lot of this other stuff is just going to fall naturally into place. So, giving y'all a little too much game right now. I definitely I'm definitely appreciative of you, Kimberly, doing this every single Sunday. You guys continue to move swiftly. Again, don't forget, free boxing lessons for anyone that is in the West Palm Beach area. Business owners, if you have not yet, make sure you email me and get your free guide on how to use turnover to use teamwork to reduce the turnover in your business, and also ask about the partnership that we have with the Royal Palm Beach Strikers, and get your Domino's card to get your free Domino's pizza off every purchase. Everyone out there, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.
Till next time, guys.